Hey, welcome to the In Between Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about anything and everything. And on today's episode, we have a poetry slam. We're closing out our Gloria Anzaldua discussion that we've had over a couple of the episodes. And what better way to do that than to read some of her poetry and to read some of our own poetry. Joining me today, I have the cast of The Four Eyes. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Go.
Alyssa,
Leslie.
Randy.
All right. With that being said, let's get into today's podcast. So, we have been discussing Gloria Anzaldua for I think two of the other podcasts, two of the other episodes, and what a better way than to finish off our topic of Gloria Anzaldua than to have a poetry slam where we read some of the Queen's poems, and then we will be reading some of our own poems inspired by Gloria Anzaldua's words. And we're going to be sharing some art today. So, yeah, get ready for that. It's going to be an awesome time. And I want to start off this discussion by saying that I am super thankful for some of the words that Gloria Anzaldua has inspired us throughout this semester. Because without her, this podcast wouldn't be possible. Personally, from my experience, she pushed me out of my boundaries to go ahead and put my work out there in another form. I've had done it before in other mediums, but to do a podcast like this is new to me. And so, what a better way than to do it with some of my classmates and have an awesome time with them. So, yeah, thank you, Gloria Anzaldua, for inspiring us and having, letting us do this podcast with your words. And yeah, we're going to have some fun reading some of her words. So I'm going to open up the floor. If any of you guys want to say anything about Gloria Anzaldua, the semester, the journey, everything that we have experienced this semester. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, so pretty much what you said, Harold, like the whole podcast thing, I know a lot of us were nervous, especially me. I think that because of the fact that the podcast is so fluid, we're just, we're having a good time, but we're also remembering who she was as a person and what she's taught us. And definitely this semester, previously having Dr. Apple, we read some Gloria Anzaldúa, we read Borderlands, but never really focusing really on her life. So I definitely feel she's touched me in the fact, like as you mentioned, your craft. Definitely, my craft has changed, and my outlook on certain things have changed, and who I am as a person. It kind of opened up that inner trauma a little bit to get like vulnerable in that sense. So I'm really grateful for her, and I'm grateful that I got to share it with all of you wonderful Four Eyes.
So this semester is a little out of my wheelhouse. I don't record anything, so being on this camera right now is terrifying. But what Anzaldúa has done for me is she has inspired me to feel deeper, think deeper, aspire deeper. So I feel like I no longer have to feel in between, in a sense that I can feel inclusive in a group of people like this one, like the Four Eyes. So thank you, Gloria Anzaldúa.
That's great, Brandy. Same with me, similar to me. Anzaldúa has given me inspiration and motivation to claim my identity and to not allow any others to do it for me. And it's very uplifting, powerful, and relieving.
And I like that you mentioned that we find who we are, because we I think for the most part we're adults, and we have a good amount of knowledge of the things that we like, the things that we dislike. But when you analyze, I don't know if it happened to you guys, but when I analyzed some of her works, some of her words, I realized that there were things in my life that I wasn't happy with, but not because I wanted to be unhappy with it, but because society or other things told me not to be happy with what I had or what I thought or what I felt. And listening to reading some of her works and seeing the effect that it had on our classmates or even in ourselves, like, it makes you break out of that boundary, out of that nepantla, right? And you're no longer in that in between where you have to decide whether you're happy to make other people happy, whether you're sad because other people want you to be sad. Now you kind of break out of that and you're like, I'm gonna be happy because I decide to be happy. And those things that don't make me happy, I'm gonna figure out why they don't make me happy, and if they should make me happy, why not, right? It's part of my identity. It's part of who I am, and yeah, that's some of the things that Gloria Anzaldua has done for me and her works. Honestly, if anyone hasn't read her works, I recommend it. Some of her things, most of her stuff, a lot of her work, her life work is very liberating, and it really gets you in your feels, and you're like, hey, like this is true in so many levels, right? Not only advocating for feminism, but for queer rights, for Chicanos rights, for immigrants, and just overall, just humanity, right? And it's one of the best things that we could have experienced this semester. I don't know if anybody else wants to add on that. If with that being said, then how about we get to some poetry reading? And I'll start off by reading one of my favorite poems um, from Ansaldua, which is in the Reader, and it's called "When I Write I Hover," and it goes like this: When I write, I hover above myself, and sometimes I zoom in and out. I am both me and not me. The eye that looks at things is my eye, yet another's eye. When I write, I am both most myself and least myself. When I write, I escape my condition, but the writing always takes me back to confront my condition because to write is to live in a made up world. I write not just to escape reality, but to create a new reality. I write because it's my calling, my task to do in the world. I write, it's my ritual, a habit, a propensity bred in my bones. It is what I do. I write because I like to think on paper. I write because I like to think and to track my thoughts. I write because I want to leave a discernible mark on the world. And this poem to me hit home. I don't want to say I'm a good writer because I'm far from it, but ever since I was like, I don't know, middle school, I've always carried a notebook to write my thoughts and what I felt. And some of my poems, even some of my songs, because I write music too, have come from those thoughts. And to see that vividness in her words, it's my reality, even though I am creating another reality, right? Even though I am the seer and I'm seeing through other people's eyes. This poem really hit home for that reason because it confronted me with who I am and what I do. So that's my poem from Ansaldua. Thank you, Gloria. And I'm gonna let Alyssa go so she can do her poem as well.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful. So I'm gonna go ahead and read Healing Wounds. So here we go. I have been ripped wide open by a word, a look, a gesture from self, kin, and stranger. My soul jumps out, scurries into hiding. I hobble here and there, seeking solace, trying to coax it back home. But the me that's home has become alien without it. Wailing, I pull my hair, slip the knot back, and swallow it. Place both hands over the wound. But after all these years, it still bleeds. Never realizing that to heal, there must be wounds; to repair, there must be damage; for light, there must be darkness. Um, kind of like Hyro, like so kind of in that sense, when I was looking at this poem, it kind of hit home as well when she talks about wounds. Um, and I'll get vulnerable in it because like we can even talk about just like personal wounds, like people that have wronged me, people that have said really hurtful things, people that I've lost in my life, like not too long ago. Um, so for her to kind of just put it out there that it's like someone saying, "Oh, it'll get better, it'll get better," and it's like you looking at it, it's like, no, it's not going to get better. I feel like this wound is always going to be open. It's just a matter of what words or what actions are going to take place to reopen that wound. Um, so for me, it's, my family being separated. So within that, family things and get togethers and stuff like that, it hurts me. And I feel that's my wound there. Relationship wise, I never have success in that. So that's another wound in itself. Dealing with debts, that's another wound. And even trying to figure out who I am as a person, where do I fit in? Um, but she says without it, there's no healing. Um, so I also just take it as it is a continuous healing process. Your life is continuously being, um, you're facing life. And again, like without darkness, there's no light. So there is a way out. There is a positive, but you need the negatives. You need that to grow. You need that to be able to claim who you are, to be able to fit into this world, right? Or just say screw it and just push it, because at the end of the day, it's like we can say it's going to get better, but it's always there's always going to be pain. So it was a really, really, really beautiful poem there that I wanted to share with you guys for that.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of yourself and opening up about being vulnerable. I think that's some of the things that Ansaldua taught us was it's okay to not be okay. I think we hear that all the time, but with her, that's her work. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel down. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel broken because in the midst of all that brokenness, that's how you fix yourself back up. And thank you so much for that poem. It did hit home some of the things that you said too, because I'm like, man, like I'm feeling some of the same things that you brought into this podcast, and thank you for that. Thank you for that, Alyssa.
All right, so I'm going to pass the torch to whoever wants to go ahead next.
I'll go.
Yay.
So, Anzaldua taught me a lot about turmoil and that it's okay to face it, but to feel it. So, in the first part of Borderlands in chapter 1, there's a poem. I'm not even sure what the name of it is, but I just want to take a little excerpt of it. It says, wind tugging at my sleeve, feet sinking into the sand. I stand at the edge where earth touches ocean, where the two overlap. A gentle coming together at other times in places of violent clash. Across the border in Mexico, stark silhouette of houses gutted by waves, cliffs crumbling into the sea, silver waves marbled with spume, gushing a hole under the border fence. So turmoil is a part of life, and I think that we all experience it. And I think her metaphor of the sea is pretty spot on because turmoil pushes and pulls. It's like the tide, it goes in and out, and you're constantly going to be at odds with it. And you just have to learn how to sink or swim. So I think that's part of the greatness of her words. And she talks about it later on in Borderlands when she says that my stories are acts encapsulated in time, enacted every time they are spoken aloud or read silently. So I think words are powerful in a sense that they're just as tumultuous as an ocean. And I like that my words can be heard and felt just the same as hers, but now it seems to have more meaning because of her. So that's all.
Yay.
That was awesome. And I think I like that either you learn to swim or you sink. And it's something that we got to do for the rest of our lives because things are going to change, but we have to learn to adapt and to take on the new aspects or the new chapters in our lives. And I think some of us here, in a couple days we'll be starting new chapters. Leslie's gonna graduate, and so is Brandy during summer. And I don't know, if, Alyssa, are you graduating this semester too?
No,
No, you're
but
almost
it's
there,
been a
girl.
lot of change. But it's been a lot of change.
Yeah,
I'm in the student teaching process, so
that's
that's
good.
gonna be that's
Yay.
another it's another
Yeah, no,
you
that's
know
good. See, so through everything, we're accomplishing things. We're going, and we're gonna get there. There's one more poem that I want to share, and this is from Otto Rene, and he is a Salvadorian poet. And going into Ansaldua's class this semester, um, we've had a whole year of social injustices topics that we talked about. The world talked about, and in our class it was kind of prominent. And there's this poem that I found by this author titled Satisfaction. So this is my rendition of reading it. And this is one of the poets that was lost in the 80s. His words was lost in the 80s. So I was able to find one of his poems, and here it is. Satisfaction. The most beautiful thing for those who have fought a whole life is to come to the end and say, we believe in the people and life, and life and the people never let us down. Only in this way do men become men, women become women, fighting day and night for people and for life. And when these lives come to an end, and people open their deepest rivers and they enter those waters forever, and so they become distant fires living, creating the heart of example. The most beautiful thing for those who have fought a whole life is to come to the end and say, we believe in people, in life, and the people let us down. Never let us down. Never let us down. And I think that was just beautiful to think that, you know, doesn't matter what happens, always keep that positive attitude that whatever happens, people will never let you down and life will never let you down. Because if you start thinking of all the negative things that people can do to you or life can do to you will never get out of your house. You will never go out there and try to succeed. So the best way to do is fight to become a man, to become a woman, and the best way is to keep a positive outlook in the world, because in the end you can say, hey, it doesn't matter what went down. I believe that life and people are our, they are our hope. So yeah, this was my rendition of Satisfaction. So I don't know if anyone else has anything else to share.
Okay, I'll go next. So everybody's reading poems of Anzaldua, and I decided to make a poem of my own. I like poetry. It's always been easy for me, and it's just I can knock one out in like 10 minutes. I don't know. Um, and I just wanted to use Anzaldua's inspiration of Nepantla. We made an entire podcast about this and what it meant for us, Nepantla, right? In betweenness, our interpretations of it. And essentially, we came down to the root that everybody has experienced Nepantla at least once in their life, whether it be cultural, emotional, like actual, eventual things to go on in people's lives. There's always somebody, like, it feels stuck in between, right? So I wrote this poem. It's called Between the Sands, and it's basically my adventure slash what's been going on so far. Because I don't know if you guys heard, but I'm in Guam. Like literally, that's the only thing that I'm wired to say. I'm currently in Guam, but I left the nest in Las Vegas. But it's been a huge cultural shift, and it's beautiful, but there's like ugly sides to it, and you'll kind of see it within my poem that we'll read. I'll share it so that you guys can read along with me, but I'll be reading it, and you guys can be looking at pictures that I added on like the little PowerPoint, like collage. So yeah, let me just share my screen. Okay. Okay, so it's called Between the Sands. Do you guys see it? Harold?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So it's called Between the Sands, and it reads, half a day means hello in Chamorro. Hello, I respond. They see my partner in uniform and roll their eyes. I know, I think to myself. I know because I understand. Many locals had to give their land to give US military a hand, but that is not me. I came here to dive and enjoy the 30-minute drive, to paddleboard at night, to spot a blue starfish and a blue-tailed shark. I came here to make friends and familia on a different sand and different water. Las Vegas is home, but Guam is too. And just, I'll give you guys a quick little, 10 seconds to observe any pictures. If you guys have any questions, I'll be free to answer. But this picture is where I was at with my favorite food, my friends, my parents, and me and my husband and doggies. So I'll stop sharing. You guys can get a glimpse of that. Okay. Good. Okay.
I think that was awesome. I really enjoyed your poem, and I wish I had that to be able to knock off a poem in 10 minutes. You
Right?
gotta teach us that because that is hard to do.
I was gonna say I can't even
No.
get sixth graders to do that. So come and teach the class.
Yeah,
I'm
I
doing it
don't.
for
Poetry
fun.
has always been something really just I just know how to do. Is it because I'm a writer? Who knows? But you know.
yeah. No, I
No,
think that was
I really
awesome.
liked, yeah, yeah, I really liked the poem. I think because, especially putting it back in, this is the whole reason we started the podcast of the in betweenness. So the fact that, like you even mentioned in those last lines, like Las Vegas is home, but so is Guam. And I think you being able to experience such a different scene, it's very, very different. I can only imagine. Um, I just think that it's like again, it's also giving you that in that vulnerable sense of like this is who I am right now, right? You're getting ready to graduate, you're entering that new chapter, and I think that's really beautiful of you to share, especially yeah, especially within the sense that, you know, even through it you probably have figured some stuff out about yourself that you didn't know because of where you're at, right? And it affects you because we think, you know, we're only thinking here. So I think that was really cool.
Randy, anything you want to add to?
I like how you started it with half a day and hello and kind
Mhm.
of rounded it out saying like Las Vegas is my home, but Guam is too. So I think you rounded it out nicely to where you accepted like their culture, who they are, and then still
Mhm.
know who you are in the midst of being in this place that's unfamiliar and that you're having to adjust to be a part of. So I thought it was great.
Yes, and just to add on what you just said, Brandy, like the whole purpose of the poem was just to write. So, just a little background history, and I'll keep it short and simple. But essentially, the U.S. came to Guam, right? The basic colonizing story, and they came to Guam, and military was like, we're gonna take this part of your island and this part of your island, no questions asked. So Guam was like, okay, you're gonna take all of this from us, but what do we have? And there's some type of local chamorro local versus military thing, and I absolutely hate it because it's difficult to try to like experience culture without being looked like, oh, she's military. So that's kind of what I added. Like they see my husband in uniform, they see my partner in uniform, and they roll their eyes. So that's kind of my little collision with in between. Like that's why I'm not military. That's not me. That's what I added in there, and it's just it's different. I don't like mean any harm, and just it's something that it's worth mentioning. So
And I
Yeah.
was gonna mention that even if you didn't mention it, that part was powerful. From reading Anzaldua, I believe it's chapter 2. She talks about colonization, and
mhm.
and you hit that right on the nail with like, I'm not part of this. I'm just here to enjoy,
Mhm.
to be part of the culture. But wow, I wish you would have brought this into Nipan when we had our Nipantla, because it would have been an awesome artifact to have. But thank you for sharing that beautiful poem. It was really amazing, and the
Yeah.
pictures. It makes me want to go to Guam now. It has some beautiful places. I want to see a shark too. What are you talking about? I want to see a shark too.
Right.
Have you seen
Yeah.
that? Have you seen a shark?
Yeah, me and my husband were snorkeling, and then this local was like, "Look, there's a blue-tailed shark." I'm like, "Oh, what? You think I'm gonna go in there?" They're like, "They don't bite," and I'm like, mm.
You're like, I'm not taking that risk.
Right.
So, I wanted, so we're coming down to our last portion of the podcast where we're gonna open up with our poems, and thank you, Leslie, for opening it up and sharing that beautiful poem. So I'm gonna let Brandy, uh I know she's got a couple poems that she wants to share with us tonight, so take it away, Brandy. The floor is yours.
So I think it's kind of ironic that mine is called Between You and Me. So here goes. The ocean's current sweeps, hazardous and raging with soft undercurrent. Life and death swim vigorously so below, just like the blood that fervents my veins, quickening and subduing, waiting for a response, but not remaining because I have fallen to where and to when I haven't found. In the air that bubbles that reaches for a hand that might lead the way to seeing you, and you can see me as a body that lies waiting to be saved. But this time I can save myself. Like a snake, I peek above the rest swimming in the turbid water of history. So this one kind of, I thought about it because I really don't know where I fit in. I haven't had the luxury of knowing who I am, so it's kind of like I've been searching for my identity the whole time of my life, and I'm just now coming into it. I'm an incredibly shy and nervous person. I feel like I'm going to cry right now, so sorry. Um,
We're here for
but
you,
I
Brandy.
thank you. But I think it's just me, like, I'm now finally like peeking out of the water. Like, it's okay to come out now. So that's kind of like where that poem came from. Like, where do I fit in? I don't know.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, and I'm glad you're taking that chance of coming out and trying new things. And I know how nervous you were about the podcast, but you're here. You're doing it. And it's this is your third episode. You know.
It is. It is. I mean, it gets better, a little bit better each time, but still, it's kind of annoying because I'm so nervous. I just hope I don't pass out. So, and this is kind of like, I don't know if you can see it. It didn't get
Wow.
finished, so it's like a snake. I didn't get to finish the water, but it's not very good. It's like they're
Gotta
just
get that tatted
amateur.
on me.
I like it.
I would too. It would go like over here somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing though. I think especially too because you always say that you're shy and stuff like that. But like Hyro said, you're here. You're doing it. And I'm like I'm the same way too. I just really mask it through silliness and the giggles and things like that. So I appreciate you for sharing that because it's like again, it's just very like we're being vulnerable. We're just
Yeah.
sharing like how it is. Yeah. So I appreciate that, and it was
Well,
beautiful.
thank you. I just have one more,
Go
and
ahead.
I think this kind of goes between, kind of like parallels I see between Anzaldua and myself. We're both from Texas, but my Texas wasn't the same as her Texas. Like mine was Houston, which is a bigger city,
Yeah.
and she was in a smaller city on the border between Texas and Mexico, and I was basically close to the Gulf of Mexico. So I just see similarity or parallels, like I said, but similarities at the same time. So this poem's called Shared Spaces. Um, it starts, Dear Gloria, Texas, our shared state of birth, but the Texas I remember and the Texas you describe are vastly different. Family, I wish I had vivid memories, good or bad. Mine, miles away, not just in space, but in time. Identity, strong persona, a trait I didn't inherit. My evolution, a slow burn. Writer, an inspiration. Words are my backbone, they can take the heat. Art, a time capsule, reconciling my emotions. Gracias, Gloria. Gracias.
Ooh, I
Yo.
got shivers. I was like, oh wait.
That was
Yes.
that was so amazing. it is a parallel of, that was a perfect. I like that you do that, as as a fellow writer. I appreciate the, like, you're looking into a mirror and you're telling Gloria, hey, that's your side, but this is my side. And
Yeah.
you just, thank you for the vivid, the vivid and concrete details that you give us in your poem. Very strong, very very good. Thank you for sharing it. Awesome.
Thank
I don't
you.
even want to read mine now. How do you top that? How do you even top
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I was like, I'm looking at my poem and I'm like,
that?
I'm gonna change that word right now. Make some last
She
minute
what she say?
changes.
Reconcile.
Yeah. Take some of her words. I'm like, still that word. It makes me sound better. Thank you, Brandy. That was awesome. That was
Thank you.
awesome. So I'm gonna let. You wanna go, Alyssa? You wanna share your art, or you wanna share your poem
I
first?
guess if you want to throw me in, let's do it.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it. How am I going
Yay.
to top that masterpiece?
Are you gonna go with art first?
Um, I guess. Well, let's. I guess since we're just rolling with the poems, I'll do mine because I only have one.
Shoot, go.
Um, so I didn't want to title it. I just pretty much it's called "Who Are You Today?" Who do you want to be? Because I am brown, there are issues I come across. Where will I fit in today? I just want the people in my life to stay. I know that time and time again I complain, but there isn't a minute that goes by that I can let my mind go astray. Because of the time that has passed, I ask myself, what has changed? This is just the start of it. We change our ways of life within a blink of an eye. But it is because of my doubts I still cry. Without he, without we, without she, without them. Who do I thank for the creations? The one, the way one looks at life creates several misconceptions. She is brown, so she may talk like this. Do not define one without knowing roots. Are they yet to cross the border? The border that does exist, but you are too scared to look. The borders created before we were born. The borders those felt needed to exist. It really makes me resist. I'm cool with who I am today, but it is others I feel nervous for. And in sickness and in health, we all go through the stages of life. Because I am this way, I view life like this. Because you can't see the pain in my heart, I cannot stay. Because you fear what is different, you rip it. I am tired of choosing. I'm tired of the borders. Let me be, let me be, let me be. Who do you want to be?
Yo, that was awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
so I think kind of like just to adding again, this whole podcast is in between. So again, it was kind of like how Brandy mentioned, like trying to find herself. Like, who are you trying to find? Like, I'm 21 years old. I still have, let's hope, I always live in the moment. I used to live in, like, I used to think about the future and think about, okay, well, what's going to happen next week and what's going to happen the month after this. And I realized that we're never promised tomorrow. So I always look at it as I'm going to live in this moment. I'm going to live today. Um, and if I don't know who I am at this immediate moment, it then tough. I need to keep moving with emotions. I'm tired of asking who will I be, or who do people want me to be. Um, so that's what I kind of just thought I'm sick of it, and this is who I am. But who are you going to be? So that was the inspo for this poem.
that was awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It makes me want to share. I didn't have this poem ready for this, but I kind of want to share it now. And I think Brandy heard it earlier in the week, but I'm gonna try to find it, um, and try to read it again. Um, it's called Maybe Tomorrow, um, and it's kind of the same thing. We think, I used to be the same way. I used to think of life ahead of time, like, where am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to do in 10 years? Dang, I see my other friends doing this, doing that, but where am I now? And then 2019 came around, and I was diagnosed with skin cancer, which it turned out it wasn't, but they scared the crap out of me. And I came up with this poem came to me during that time, and so here it goes. There won't be tomorrow without today. There won't be today without yesterday. This is true. Yesterday was, today is, but tomorrow that's still unknown. To make it to tomorrow, you have to survive today. If you're here today, yesterday was a piece of cake. Tomorrow is not a promise, but something we hope. The mistakes of today, we hope we fix tomorrow. The happiness of today, we want to prolong tomorrow. The hardships of today, we hope to overcome tomorrow. But tomorrow is still unknown. Like a mystery with no solution, like a maze with no exit, like a cancer with no cure, tomorrow is not known. So I will live today to fix the mistakes of yesterday, find happiness in today, and whatever happens today, I'll just deal with it tomorrow. And that's my take on life now. Whatever happens today, I'll deal with it tomorrow. Thank you guys. Thank you. So do you want to share your art, Alyssa? I know you have some pieces that you wanted to share with us as well.
Yeah, I guess. Brandy just like she just took the show away. I just feel so like, oh, my amateur.
Her.
But
Sorry.
let's put it up. Let's do it.
You're gonna have to let us borrow that snake drawing so we
For
can all get
tattoos.
Right.
matching
Little
tattoos.
4 eyes tattoos. Pop it there, like they.
I'm so down. Hey, Leslie's coming in May. Later this next week, right?
I'm coming next week.
Woohoo!
I need another tattoo, so let's
Let's do
go.
it.
Yes.
If you're down with the pack, let's do it. Alrighty, so here you go, Alyssa. Which piece do you want to share first?
I guess we can look at some of Anzaldua's pieces from the reader. So whichever one. All right, El Sonote. Okay, cool. So I guess to kind of just wave into my own art. She was really, we talked about this a little bit before. She was really just raw in what she wanted to talk about, especially looking at it, right? So El Cenote is a water filled sinkhole. And if you've never seen one, Google it. No, I'm kidding. Um, but more or less, it was her going through this threshold. Um, and it's like I mentioned it to myself. If we're not careful, right? Like if we're not careful, we can sink into this sinkhole. We can fall into it, like we can poison our lives almost. A lot of the energy that we hold um, is very influential. So through like the cracks, through the pool of images, how we see ourselves, what we're experiencing, and things like that, kind of inspired my own drawings. So let's look at the next one. All right, cool. So identity always under construction. So this one's a big one, right? Because this is what we've been talking about a lot. And whoa, the bantla. So breaking down, taking apart, dismembering, and reconstructing yourself. So what does that look like? I also talked about this too, and we're still in a pandemic, and I talk about it a lot that this unfortunately had to pause a lot of people's lives, right? It took a lot of things from people, whether it was a job, whether it was a person, and in order for us to have this old ID, and to kind of think about what was I doing before, you know, that I didn't realize how much I had, like in the blink of an eye, could just be taken away. And now I have to kind of find myself, who I am again, or who I would like to be, right? And I talked about it because I'm still, even before all of this, I was still in that Napantla phase and just continuously rebuilding myself, getting crushed, rebuilding myself, getting crushed. So you're dismembered to the point where it's like, sometimes are you really recognizable? So yeah, so let's look at my final masterpiece. It's not the best. So again, kind of just taking pieces of how she was really just like raw in her artwork and her forms of, just communicating with us. I drew the hand because, so just a little quick background. My mom is a massage therapist. So the hands are, she talks about the hands carry so much energy. And it's very true because she'll literally touch my hand And I'm like, ow, ow, stop. And she's like, what's wrong with you? I'm not even touching you. It's because we carry so much energy into our hands that it's like the blood that's represented, the things that we go through, whether it's being seen or not, that's what we're putting out in the world, right? So it affects us from all other elements. And then the sun kind of just beaming on us constantly, putting us in that limelight, um, and us being able to look at just life in general, like how are we going to continue our lives, and what we do impacts around, like impacts those around us. um so like again, like I talk about carrying energy in our spirits, that sometimes can put us in the nabantla, or create the nos otras thoughts, right, or help us construct the identities. We're constantly seeing these tragedies, we're constantly seeing these things on television. Are we just so used to them now? Do we bypass these things? It's not hurting me, so why care? So kind of like mentioning what I talked about again, like how are we going to deal with this shadow beast? How has Gloria talked to us in the fact that we need to realize who we are as people, or life will continue to have these borders. What are we going to do in order for us to make a statement? Try to understand roots. And more or less, if it was me, if it was my mother talking to me, check yourself. So that was just a little bit of my artwork, and then the us, me, you, them, we. What about I?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. That was a masterpiece. I liked how you took different elements and you combined one whole picture. And wow, that that whole imagery with the hand, that is powerful. How we have to be careful what we put out in the world, right? And how we put it out in the world. And if you guys let me, I have one more poem I want to share. I wrote this when we were doing a pantla. I just didn't
Oh.
bring it up during the thing. Yeah, I think that the Pantla did us all so good. Like we all had so many things that we had during that time. But here's my poem. It's called Los Silenciados, or the ones who were silent. We hide in the shadows. We are oppressed under their shadow. They told us not to speak. Quédense callados. En silencio nos formamos, en silencio nos educamos, en silencio nos hicimos más fuertes. They passed judgment. Silence was our judgment. Silence was our weapon. Silence was our medium. Silence was our encouragement. So now they stand silent. So now we rise from the ashes. Now we rise from our prison. Now they have to stay silent, but now we will speak and we won't be silent. And I just it was this is like my whole motto now of Gloria Anzaldua in life. Never be silent. Speak what you want to speak. Say what you want to
Yeah.
say. Put it out there. If it's art, music, whatever it is, put it out in the world. Don't be silent. We've been oppressed for too
Mm-hmm.
long. We've been told that you're not good enough for too long. They've told us your dreams are not good enough for too long. So now they stay silent. Now let's do it's our time. Let's rise from the ashes and let's do our thing. So
I
that's my
love it.
last poem.
I love it.
Thank you.
I
Anything
do,
else?
because right in the form of it all, I'm sorry,
Go
in
ahead.
the form of it all, like this was the podcast, right? The
Yeah.
creation, especially with you, Hyro, like putting that
Oh.
putting it out there finally, just going with it. And we can tell everybody like and subscribe. I'm out there doing it.
Thank you. I
So,
appreciate
and
that.
it's like, yeah, so it's like I just think she's touched us all in a way where we're just looking at life completely different. So I'm that was awesome.
I'd like to add to that. I think she talks a lot about snakes and like the molting process. So I think we've all had a molting process in this class where we've grown out of our skin into a different skin. So I
Definitely.
think it's more accepting and it's more inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to add to that, Leslie?
No, not at the moment.
All
Just
right.
listening, enjoying.
For sure. So, this is the end of our podcast, and let's close it out with giving a special shout out to Dr. Apple, who in this course gave us or introduced us to the great Gloria Anzaldua. So I'll go first. Thank you, Dr. Apple. I know you're going to listen to this podcast. I know you watch the podcast. So thank you so much for inspiring me, for telling me to follow my dreams, for telling me to not be afraid and to go get it and to just put myself out there in the world despite the judgment, despite people not believing in you. Thank you for encouraging me and for giving us the tools and for setting up mediums and ways for us to break out of our molds and to become a new person. So I will forever be thankful to you for introducing Gloria and Saldua and for your encouragement and for your care, for always keeping up with me personally, for keeping up with my group. And just thank you so much. Anyone else wants to take it? Go ahead.
I'll go next. So thank you, Dr. Apple, for just listening to me. I know that it was hard for me to be in the class. I was at work while every class was happening. So I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, even though I sat in a hotel ballroom to have that conversation. Um, it meant a lot because my brain's all over the place, just like I saw in you, and it's fun and exciting. But you let me understand that it's okay to be however I'm going to be, whenever I'm going to be it. So thank you. I wish I'd had more classes with you, but I appreciate the time we did have. So thank you very much.
Anyone else can take it from here? Go ahead, Alyssa.
Okay.
I was like, who's gonna go first, Leslie? No, I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Apple. I know that I haven't. I mean, as far as trying to communicate, I on my part, I wasn't as like communicative with that. But I just want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of the classroom. I've had issues with other professors that because I wasn't present in the class, they told me to like leave class and stuff like that. So I think more or less you having open arms and being really understanding that I had a lot of loss um, from COVID and stuff like that. So my life completely changed. So my dynamic changed, and even being able to sit here and do this and things like that. Um, just being busy. But thank you for showing us, love. Thank you for showing us love. Thank you for actually caring. Thank you for being an amazing doctor with what you're doing and giving us, like Hyro mentioned, this medium to kind of just get out of our shells and for really focusing on this wonderful lady here because she really has changed a lot of my perceptions in life. So again, thank you, Dr. Apple, and I really appreciate you. I don't know what classes you're going to be teaching, but hopefully I can take some more before I graduate. So thank you, Dr. Apple.
Yay. Okay, last thing. Just as everybody has said, Dr. Apple, everybody loves you. You have been a support system for many students, including myself, back in what, 2019, when I came to you personally outside of office hours, right? Outside of class hours to come see you. And you cared for me and the situation that I was going through. You remember, you care for me as a student and from outside of my life, which is wonderful because you are not obligated to, but you still do. And it's beautiful. I've connected with you in such a very close way. You're like one of my favorite professors, and I will see you when I get to Vegas.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think we owe, and I think I said this in class today. If we could take a Dr. Apple class forever, I think we would all do, just because how amazing she is, and the way,
Yeah.
the powerful way that she just teaches, and it's amazing. I think this is my third class with her, and
I think so too.
I wish I had more classes with her too, but it is what it is, and just man, I'm so happy. And before we end the podcast, um, because this is the last podcast the Four Eyes will do. I don't know if for a while, if forever. I don't know. I know Brandy and I have talked about coming back and doing some flash fiction. So I don't know if I'll have
Yeah.
you guys, if I'll have Leslie or Alyssa come back and do a show if you guys are willing to do that. But if this is the end of the Four Eyes, I know Molly's not here, but I mean, it is what it is. We're here. I just want to thank you guys for being so supportive, for taking this step with me, and to making this podcast happen. If you guys would have said we want to do some Google Docs, some Google Slides instead of doing a podcast, I don't think the podcast would have started. So you guys all took that step with me, and I will be forever
Yep.
thankful because that step you guys took with me changed my life and helped me complete one of my goals. So I will be forever thankful to you guys, to Brandy, to Alyssa, to Leslie. Thank you so much. I will be forever be in your debt. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry you were cut off a little bit.
No, I said thank you.
No, thank
Thank
you
you to
guys.
you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah, thank
guys.
you, Hyro, for pushing us out there and for letting us do this and for, having us all here. So I appreciate every single one of you. So, and I'm glad we all got to
Yes.
contribute to this
Yeah.
because you guys are awesome, including Molly, even though she's not here. No, I'm kidding. I love Molly, but no, but like I said, just thank you guys so much, and especially within the semester, very, very, very hard season so to go through. So having great people like yourselves definitely made it much more fun and enjoyable. So thank you guys. Thank you to the Floor Eyes.
Yes, thank you guys for being so accepting because I know I can be a lot sometimes. Normally, I wouldn't. Like, you guys, you never see the side of me, but I'm just comfortable with you guys. This is why I was telling Dr. Apple, like, I got the best group ever. Like, by definition of like collaborative, contributing group, like, my definition of, I think my best college group yet. And I'm out this.
Aw,
So,
thank you.
yes.
That means a lot. That means a lot. And I really did see that when we would help each other out with homework, even for not even for this class, but we would just get together and
Oh,
do
yeah.
and help each other with homework. So that was awesome. And yes, I've enjoyed this journey. So lastly, anyone else wants to add anything else before we close the podcast? If we're good to
No.
go, if we're good to go, we're gonna celebrate next week when Leslie gets here because she's graduating, and so is Brandy.
Yes.
So we're gonna throw a
Yes.
party. No, I'm
Yay!
just kidding. We're not throwing a party. Well, I don't know.
Wow.
If we are,
I'll
it's gonna
take
be low
shots for
key.
you guys. I'll take several shots for both of you
Oh, there we go.
because I got
Oh,
straight A's this
yes.
semester.
Ooh,
You guys
straight
are
A's.
graduating this semester. Let's do it.
All right.
So, are you going to? Oh, never mind. I'll ask after.
So, thank you for joining us on this episode of the In Between podcast. Thank you so much for you guys being wonderful. Until next time, peace.